is flatten and the other one is union. So basically, what is a flatten transformation? When do we make use of this flatten transformation? Suppose if you have some data which is related to some JSON data, okay? If you are having some JSON data and you want to move this JSON data is not a straightforward JSON data. Here we are having some okay, it is not a simple straightforward JSON data. We are having nested columns in nested tags will be there, right? So nested columns are present inside a single JSON. So we have multiple columns actually. So let me show where that. Test files. Test files. Okay. So in this, only one will work. Let me just take this one. Let me copy paste it on. Okay, so this is the JSON data from one of my projects. So basically using this data, right? So actually what is the JSON data? Actually JSON data will start with a curly brace and it will end with a curly brace. Okay, it will start and end with a curly brace, and inside that we will be having different let me just close this, I don't need it. So how does a JSON data look like? Actually, it will start with a curly brace. In between, right, we will be having different kinds of properties. Like you will be having property 1 and its respective value, property 2 its respective value. Not only that, prop 1 its respective value 1, prop 2 its value, and not only that, you might be having prop 3. Inside this prop 3 again, this might be an array, and inside this array you will be having some other values like this. Okay, so this is how this is called as an array, right? Obviously if it is starting with a curly brace, it will be having multiple arrays. Prop 4. Okay, so using this flatten transformation, what can we be achieved? So if without using this flatten transformation, let us assume that you have some source file like this and you want to move this source file from one location to another location. Okay, so if you move it, if you just if you just copy this thing, what will be happen? Only this data is there, right? Only this straightforward data, that is proper one is prop one is one column, this is one column. So only these two particular columns will be moved to your respective sink. If you do not use any flatten transformation, right, since it is a JSON data, if you just make use of your data flow transformations and without using any data flow transformations inside, if you just put your source and sink and then try to see what will happen, if you're just trying to copy this data, only these values will be copied to your destination. So if you do not want to achieve that, and if you want all these values also, okay, I also want these values also to be moved to my destination. So if you want to achieve that, you can do it using flatten transformation. All right, if you want to make use of this flatten transformation, you should work with arrays. Remember that you can work only with arrays on this flatten transformation. So when you apply flatten transformation on this particular column is there, right, this prop 3 array. So once you make use of this particular prop 3 array, what all are the columns present inside that also will be moved to your target. Okay, it's just that we need to apply some mapping. So I'll show you that in today's session. Okay, so let us go to our data factory. Meanwhile, let me go to my resource group. It's taking time. So flatten again is an important activity which we have performed. That is an important transformation which we have performed in one of our scenarios. So the challenging part here is the file itself. So if you have any issues with the file, right, the file itself will not get imported. So you'll have to make sure that the file which you have received, right, the JSON file, it should be in the appropriate. Everything should be actually appropriate. Only then you will be able to import it into your data factory. Okay, if there is any error with the file, you will not be able to import it. Let me quickly upload one sample file and let me see if this file is correct or not. Desktop test files, Azure, JSON files. This one, I guess. Data flow. Let me add a new data flow. Here source. Let me name it to T_Flatten. All right. So here, let me switch it on. Where is that? This is the JSON. So if you see here, the file is in the format of .json. That is because this is a JSON file, right? So we have a format called as .json, right? So if you want to make use of that particular JSON file, if you want to load this data to your appropriate sync and perform your transformations, you will have to make use of the data set, which is after choosing that particular data set, you'll have to choose this appropriate JSON format. Okay. So here, let me just create a new data set. Why am I creating a new data set? Because till now I have not used JSON wala data set. So that is why I'm using a new JSON data set. Okay. So till now we have used different kinds of things, right? I've told you how to use CSV format, binary format, Parquet format, XML format. Now let us see this JSON format. Import. In tomorrow's session, I'll be starting with Azure Databricks. Okay, so please be available tomorrow, as in Monday.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay. So if you open and if there are any issues, right, the file itself will not be previewed properly. It will throw you errors. Okay, so this is my XML file, sorry, JSON file. So here what am I having? I'm having something called as non-op invoices. Inside that I have a header tag inside. So basically this is your structure of your JSON data. Okay, and this is how your JSON data will look like. So if you see here, these are all the different straightforward columns I have inside my header tag. So inside that header tag, I have something called as, inside this header tag, I have something called as request header. Okay, so this is my root. If you consider this, my main route is non-op invoices. Inside that non-op invoices, I have some header tag. Okay, so this XML schema version, it is a straightforward column, not an issue. If you see this, right, inside this non-op invoices, I have something called as header. Inside that header, I have request headers. Okay, so this request header again is an array which is holding multiple values, which is key and value. So it is actually holding few other values. Okay, this is one column, this is one column, and those columns respective values. Okay, so just to see the data. And if you see here, I have another tag also, which is invoices tag, which is an array again. So inside this, I have different kinds of columns I have. And if you observe, invoice is one header tag. If you consider invoice as a header, inside that header, I have something called as operator. Okay, operator is again a parent here. So this is the root parent, this is the sub parent which is inside your invoices. So like that we have different kinds of columns. So if you want to move the data which is present inside these arrays, right, you will make use of Flatten transformation. So let me go back. Sync. Your sync could be anything. So in between the source and sync, right, you will have to make use of a formatter which is called as a Flatten transformation. Okay. So here only, okay, if you see here, how many number of columns am I having? If I import the schema, it is telling me only one column. If you see here, right, if you import the schema also, if you see here, this is the only column which is visible. So using this, right, you will not be able to move the data from your source to sync. Okay, so if you just see the data type, actually what all the data types will be having, we have string data type, boolean, integer, decimal. So different kinds of data types will be having. So if you see here, this is complex data type. So why is that? Because header is something which is holding multiple columns, right? So that is why it is not a straightforward string or integer or something. It is a complex data type. All right, which is holding multiple things. So similarly, I have something called as request header, and inside that I'm having different kinds of values. So after that, I have something called as invoice, which is also holding different column names. Okay, so inside that, again, inside this invoices, I have operator. So it is not a simple straightforward single column, but we have multiple columns. So just by using this thing, you cannot directly move it to sync. Okay, so in order to achieve that, what can you do? You will have to make use of this Flatten transformation. Okay, so even before that, let me just give something like, I have something called as a revenue JSON. Okay, revenue data I have. So here let me go to the source part. So this is one place wherein you will find the difference between a normal any other format to your JSON format. So if you see here, till here it will be same only, but if you scroll down, right, you have something called as JSON settings. As this is a JSON related file, you will be having this JSON related settings. Okay, so here we have different kinds of options like document from a single document, document per line, or array of documents. So so if you consider my scenario, right, like my scenario, I'm having only a single document. Inside that I'm having only one JSON data. Okay, so that is why I can choose this single document wala option. So if you have any suppose within a document, within a single document, you might be having different kinds of documents. Okay, so if you're having array of documents, then you can make use of this particular option. Or else if you feel like your particular input is having one document per line. Okay, so based on the input, actually you'll have to choose it, but usually we will be making, since the file which I've taken, right, this file is nothing but my single file, which is from starting till ending, I only have one revenue related data. Okay, so it is in the only one document, so I'll just choose this particular document as a format. So if you see here what all options it is available, so using this, right, it will be used. So using this, we'll be able to see if it is a single JSON, or else if there are multiple JSONs in separate lines, or else if they are in the format of arrays. So based on that, you will have to choose the particular category. As it is a single document, I'm just choosing this particular option. And one more thing, if you see here, right, okay, this is my header actually. Okay, this is my initial header, and after that, this is inside that non-op invoices, I have something called as header. If you observe, entire document is enclosed within double quotes, right? Be it the value or else be it the columns, right, entire document is enclosed within double quotes. If you see here, all the values, all the column names are enclosed within double quotes. So that is why we have an option here. If you see here, you have something called a single quoted, right? By default, your JSON will be having, it will be enclosed within double quotes. If you feel like your document is enclosed within single quotes, right, you can just check this option. Okay, I'm not checking this option because my document is enclosed within double quotes, which is by default, and my JSON, this particular data flow transformation will allow this proper format. Okay, if you have single quotes, right, in your, if your document is enclosed within your single quotes for any particular column, right, you can just make use of this option. You can just check it here. Okay, And if your JSON data is having any call comments, right, you can just check this. So the comments could be in the format of C++. So how will the C++ comments be? It will be something like this. It might start with like this, something like that. Okay, here you will be writing some comments. So basically, if your JSON data is enclosed with these particular comments, you can just specify this option. Where is that has comments wala option? Okay, if your JSON document is having any particular comments like C++ comments will be present, right? So if you feel like you have that, and if you want to bypass that, you can just make use of this has comments wala option. Okay. Okay, so there might be cases wherein few columns will be present, right? Few columns may not be having this quotes. So usually it will be present, whatever column names are present, right? So those all columns will be enclosed within double quotes. If you feel like there are few columns which are not enclosed within double quotes, then you can also just specify this here. Okay, so that while trying to read that particular file, it will also consider those columns and it will read it. Okay, unquoted column names. Suppose if you have any columns which are not quoted, then you can just make use of this particular option here. Okay, so not all the formats will be in the similar fashion, right? Like there might be few escape related characters, something like return, carriage return, backslash n for new line, backslash t for tab. So we might be having few kinds of backslash related escape sequence characters will be there. We call these as escape sequence characters. Okay, if you have anything like this in your document, and if you do not want to consider that, if you do not want to move that, then you can just make use of this particular option. Okay, backslash is actually used to escape characters, we call them. Okay, in our Java language or any language, we call these as backslash or escape characters, we call them. Okay, if a character is followed by a backslash, so this return, right, this is called as some carriage return, we call it. And slash n is nothing but some new line, this is nothing but tab. So we have few backslash related escape sequence characters, we call them. So if your document is having these particular backslash related escape characters, if you do not want these to be moved, then you can just make use of this particular option enable. Okay, that is one thing which you will have to remember here. All right, so after that, what do I have? I'll have to go to my flatten transformation. So here, right, output stream is flatten, that is fine. And here, what is my incoming stream? Incoming stream is revenue JSON. This is my incoming stream here. All right, so after that, what did I tell you? Basically, flatten will work with arrays, right? So if you just click this particular option here, so many things will be grayed out, and only those which are enclosed within arrays, only those will be highlighted. So you will have to choose those particular options only. So if you see here, my non-op invoice is the main header. Inside that I have something called as a header tag. I have inside that header, what I have request headers, and this request header is nothing but it is an array. Okay, so basically you can make use of this flatten transformation, and you can just unroll by option is there, right? This unroll by option, inside that unroll by option you will have to choose this array or array wala fields. Okay, so since this is highlighted, right, you can just apply this flatten transformation on this particular array. So you can also not only on that, you can also unroll by on this field also. Okay, so if you just hover on it, what is it showing? It is showing me non-op invoices dot invoices. That means my non-op invoice is the parent, and inside that parent I have invoices as array. So inside that invoices, if you just make use of this option, what will be present? So or whatever are present inside your invoices, right, like invoice ID, number, date, accounting, so these all are present, right? So these all values can be moved from your source location to your sync location. Okay, it's just that you will have to perform your mapping. And after that, let us see what else arrays we have. I have something called as statements. Okay, so statements is also an array which is having these different values here. Okay, so let me just choose one. I'll just choose this invoices wala array option. Okay, let me just choose that. So this is the mandatory field which needs to be taken. Okay, if you want to unroll by a specific array, you will basically make use of this unroll by option. Okay, All right. So after that, one thing which you'll have to remember is you will have to, after choosing this particular unroll by option, you will have to click on this reset wala option. So just observe the difference here. So initially I only have this non-op invoices which is mapped to my non-op invoices. So basically this is my source related columns and this is my target related columns. Okay. So if you see here, I have only only one mapping is available. So if you just click on reset, right, so what all values are present inside these particular array, right, those all will be displayed. That means what all values you can move to your target location can be moved using this particular flatten transformation. Okay, so since I am making use of this invoices wala array, right, so inside that invoices what all are the values are present, right, so those all values will be displayed. So along with that, not only those array related invoices, non-op invoices dot invoices dot, these all tags are actually present inside your invoices, right? So not only that, and few which are straightforward, right, which does not need any flatten transformation, those also will be displayed. Okay, if you see here previously without using this flatten transformation, we only had one mapping, that is directly to the header of source to the header of target. Okay, so once you applied this flatten transformation on your non-op invoices dot invoice, that is you have unrolled by this particular invoices array. So inside this invoice array, how many elements I have, how many columns I have invoice id, number, date. So these all are the columns which I have inside my invoices wala array, right? So those all details will be displayed, and along with that, these are straightforward data. Okay, xml schema version and header which do not need any kind of flattening. So basically when you make use of this particular invoice, whatever columns are present inside that will be displayed, and after that whatever are present directly inside your non-op invoices will be displayed. Okay, if you do not want this, you can also delete it. I do not want them to be displayed, I just want them to be deleted. Okay, so based on this, right, whatever you want, right, you can just move only those fields as per the requirement. So in your invoices, right, you do not need, if you, there might be a case wherein all the time you do not need all the values to be moved. Okay, there might be you do not want few values, so let me just delete few values randomly. Okay, but it is based on the requirement. If you want all the values inside your invoices to be moved to your target, then you can just put it like that as it is. But if you do not want all the values and you only want few values to be moved to your target location, then just remove it. Okay, so if you want, you can also rename it here. So what is this mapping again, what is this arrow, you might be wondering. So that is nothing but this is your source column. Okay, this is how your column name looked in the source field. That means looking this itself, we can say that invoice date is a column which is present inside your invoices parent, and that invoice parent is present inside your non-op invoices. Okay, looking this itself, we will be able to tell. All right, so if you want to rename it, you can rename it. If you want to delete it, you can delete it. If you want to rearrange it also, you can do it. It is something like, you know, select wala transformation we have used, right, previously. So that also is used for what, which purpose? To rename, to reorder, and to choose the appropriate fields, right? So this is your source side, this is how I'm getting the data at the source end. So this is how the column names would be when I move, when I make use of this data flow transformation, right? When I execute this scenario end to end, how will the data be displayed? The data will be, the columns will be like this. Okay, invoice id, invoice number. So whatever you want to change it, you can just change it. Right? Invoice id, invoice number, invoice date, whatever. So if you want, you can also delete few of the options. Operator, owner number, partner, currency code, original partner number, accepted. So few things. If you do not want few things to be displayed, you can just delete them. Okay, so here I have only chosen few mappings. So previously I was getting some 19 mappings, so I have removed a few things and I have renamed a few columns. So in my target end, right, once I execute this, once I preview the data, I'll be able to see the data with column names as invoice id, invoice number, and inside that the data would be present. Okay, so if you see here again Actually, I have tried to apply this invoice only on invoices array, right? So inside that I'm having some 15 to 16 columns I have, and after that I have something else also which is called as statements. This is again a complex wala, this is also an array. So if you just make use of this, right, let's see the difference. Actually now I have unrolled by this particular invoices, so I'm able to see all the values, right? So let me just preview the data and show you the difference. So if you want to work with this JSON data, right, in Google there will be so many JSON data available. Just try to download any of that. Okay, firstly try with a simple case, try to understand the difference, and then only go for like a little few KBs wala file. You can just take it from there. So if you see here what all data I have received here, I have unrolled by what I have unrolled by this particular invoices wala column, right? So since I have unrolled by that invoices wala array, what am I getting inside that invoices array? I have all these different values. Okay, so since I have made use of this particular invoices array and I have unrolled it by invoices array, I'm able to get all the values, all the columns which are present. Okay, so if you see here, I have told you, right, when you just simply straightforwardly move the data from one location to another location which is having arrays without performing this flattening, what will happen? You will not be able to view the data. So if you see here, since I have not applied this particular I didn't delete it because I want you to understand this difference. Okay, so since these all are the columns which are present inside my invoices array tag. Okay, this is another array. So if you want to unroll this particular array, what you'll have to do, you'll have to make use of another flatten transformation. So here, right, this particular column you'll have to remove it, and then you will have to add another flatten transformation here. Okay, so you can just make use of another flatten transformation here. Once you make use of that, you will have to unroll by this particular array. So if you have five six if you have, suppose if your JSON data is having 3 to 4 arrays you have, so each flatten transformation will only be applicable for one array. Remember that. Okay, if you have if you want to migrate this data from one location to another location, and if you want all the arrays to be unrolled by, then you will have to make use of those many number of arrays you have, right? That many number of arrays you will have to make use of this flatten transformation. If you have 3 arrays, then 3 flatten transformations should be used. All right, so here I do not need this, I can just remove this particular column. Okay, so if you see here, I have told you, right, so if it is an array, then what might the its type be? It will be complex type. So if you unroll by the next time when you are using this in the next flatten transformation, if you make use of the statements, right, so what all details are present, right, inside your statements, so you will be getting something like statement ID, you will be getting this value, you will be getting, and after that you'll be getting statement number, these all data you'll be getting. Okay, so along with that you will also be getting this cost center. All right, this you will be getting, this you'll be getting. Just try to see, just try to, this is the real-time data, so I cannot provide you this data, but just try to Google proper JSON data which is having these nested columns are present, right? Nested columns are nothing but inside a main header you are having subheaders, and inside that subheader you are having some other suppose you have this, right, this is called as subheader. Okay, so just try to take take a scenario from Google which is having these nested wala tags. All right, so if you just if you want to just migrate this data, it is very simple. You can make use of that appropriate option here. So usually here, right, we'll be make use of our database. Okay, if it is your SQL database, right, you can just work with this flatten transformation. Okay, so just execute this scenario end to end after putting this SQL here, Azure SQL or only Azure SQL, not on-premise SQL. On-premise will not work because this is related to your data flow transformations, right? So only auto resolve integration IR will be applicable. So that is one of the limitation you have here. Okay, so I just hope you have understood this flatten transformation. Just let me know if you have any doubts.
In the activities, we can use this JSON format directly, copy paste, right? So there we can't see these, implementations like delete or rename. We can just copy paste it, right? So in the activities, we can't
Which
do these all
in the
things.
activities, yeah, so basically there is a purpose for this particular flatten transformation, right? So here we are unrolling it. Unrolling means what? We are flattening it. So actually it was in the format of nested columns are there. Using this flatten, we are trying to flatten the columns. If you see here, this is nothing but flattening the columns. So if you just make use of any activity, what you will be able to do, you can just simply the JSON data to JSON data. Okay, or else if you can use a CSV data, just try to do that. These nested columns are there, right? Those values will not be moved actually. So that is why we are making use of this flatten transformation.
Okay, it means that if we have a JSON data file, so we can't see, if we can't see it in a proper way. So if we want to see in a proper way, we can use this flatten data flow, and we can make it in a manner that we can easily understand by looking the, in a table format in the sync cell,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Thank you.
Mhm.
If I want to flatten another array means one by one we can give the activities, a flatten activity or in a sequence manner or in a parallel manner.
No sequence, whatever random fashion you want, you can just move it. Okay, so here you will have to add another this particular source you can consider, and then here you can add some other flatten transformation. Okay, here let me just take flatten, and then you can just give it to appropriate sync.
Okay, for each
Okay,
and every array we'll give source and sink.
source and sync should be different, obviously. Okay, sync should be different, source will be the same. So if you
Same.
see here, what have I done? I'll just show you that again. So let's just click on this plus symbol here. So here what am I using? I'm just using this new branch wala option. Okay, if I just make use of this new branch wala option, that means you don't have to take your source again and again. Okay, you can just reuse the same source. So I have just made use of this new branch wala option, and then this the same thing was duplicated for me. Okay, so that it will be very easy. This is your source and this is your sink. Inside that you can just make use of the another unrolling or another arrays you can just work with. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
So we can't unroll the multiple things at a time, huh?
Yes, that is not possible in a
Okay.
single flattened transformation. That is because we only have one unroll by. We do not have any plus like that, right? So you can
Okay.
only unroll at one point. You can only unroll for one array.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, so this is one of the important transformations. So just try to make use of this particular transformation, execute it, and see if you are getting any errors. All right.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So after that we have something called as this union is there, right? So basically union, when do we make use of this union? Actually union can be used. So here we have a limitation again. So union can be applied on different two tables or two files. Okay, so basically union will be applied on two different tables or two different files, but the limitation here is it should have same schema. All right, because if you just make use of this union, right, it will not understand. Union means what? It is actually taking file one, it is taking, it will add that file one with file two. Adding is nothing but appending. Okay, suppose if your file one is having three columns, it is having, and your file 2, suppose your file 1 is having some 10 records, and then your file 2 is having 5 records, 6 records. So at the end, once you apply this union, how many records you'll be getting? You'll be getting 16 records. Okay, so here the limitation is it will not understand how many number of columns are present. So if there are incorrect number of columns, like if in your file 1 is having 3 columns and your file 2 is having 4 columns, this will actually throw you an error. Okay, because it will not understand it how many columns are there. Okay, so for that you will have to make sure that the file which you are giving, file 1 and file 2, should have the same schema. So your file 1, if it has 3 columns, and if your file 2 is having 3 columns which are same, okay, even the sequence is important here, because it will not understand. It will just simply concatenate one file with your another file. Okay, if the schema is same, and if you want to make use of this union option, you can go to this appropriate. Here it will not work because this is a JSON data. You can take any other file here, suppose joins, right? Joins will basically work with two different two tables, right? So here you will have to make sure that this is my employee table, which is having 5 columns, this is having 2 columns. So here you cannot apply this union transformation, because it will give you the incorrect results which you do not want. So even before applying this union transformation, you will have to make sure that your source schema and your target schema, number of columns which are present inside your source, and this first source and your second source should be same, along with the sequence. Okay, the order in which you have the columns in the first file should be the same with the second file also. So once you have that, you can just simply make use of this union option, and then you can achieve it. Okay, got it,
Sorry
guys?
to ask you, sorry to ask me once again. So if I have a employee ID, employee name, and salary in a first file, second file will be an employee salary and employee ID. So it will be
Good.
it will be. So is there any chance that I can use this union here?
Sorry, repeat.
If I have an employee ID, name, salary in the
Hmm.
first file, in the second file I have an employee ID and name. I don't have a third schema, third column.
It will not work for this also.
Okay.
Actually, the schema should be same for both the things. Okay,
So
only then
it
apply.
has to be exactly matches from file 1 to file 2, the schema.
Yes, the schema should be same, and the order also should be same. It cannot be
Okay.
like this also. Name is here, right? You cannot have that here like this. It should not be like this also. It should be appropriate. Whatever the sequence is there, right? The same sequence should be present here also.
Okay. Got
Okay,
it.
na?
Yeah.
All right then. So and after this, let me go to some.
For the XDS class, you said that for the alter row, we'll create an Azure SQL so for that endpoint,
Yes.
right?
Yes. So for that now, actually, I thought of using these values which I have. Okay, so I'm not able to use that. So actually, I'll have to create a new server, new database, and all. And I couldn't get the time yesterday, so I didn't create that actually.
Okay.
So I'll tell you one more feature which we have in our copy activity. Okay, so in our copy activity, right? Like if you want to add new columns. Okay, if you want to add new columns based on some condition, some condition, you can also add a new column. So this you can achieve it inside your copy activity and inside your data flows also. Can anybody tell me what is the data flow transformation to achieve this?
Uh,
Derived
that's a
column.
row. That's
Yes,
a
yes. Yeah. Using the derived column, right? We can add a new column. So in our data flow transformations, we have that derived column transformation here also. You can add it. It's just that you will have to go to your source tab here. This is my copy activity. Inside that, I'm going to my source tab here. Here, whatever column name you want to add, right? You can just add that particular column, and here you will have to specify that appropriate wala expression. Okay. Okay, you can just give the expression here. Suppose I want something like UTC nav, something, whatever value you want, right? You can just specify it here. Clear? So that is how you can add a new column here. So you can just specify whatever name you want, right? So this will be your column name, and the value, if you can also hard code the value, or else some pattern will be there, right? So if you want to give it some dynamic expression, if it is a date, then you want this particular date, be it in IST format or UTC now format or whatever format you want. You can just specify that appropriate format here, and for that particular column you will be getting that appropriate value reflected. Okay, so this is how you can add a new column to a activity. So there are multiple ways to achieve it. One is using this copy activity, and the other one is using derived column transformations. Okay, and what else I have? Mm, okay, so if you see here, I have something called a set partitioning wala option. Okay, so basically using the set partitioning option, the simplest format which we can make use of using round robin wala fashion. So I'll tell you what this round robin is. Round robin. So suppose if you are choosing here the number of partitions as true. Okay, suppose you're having a file you have which is having some, say 20 records are having, you have a file which is consisting of 20 records. So using this round robin fashion, what is this round robin fashion? This is nothing but distribution. Distribution, you can call it partition, we can call it whatever you want to call it, you can call it. So basically using this particular partition type, what can be achieved? So here inside this round robin, this is the simplest format which you can use it. So here the number of partitions which I'm giving is 2. Suppose I'm giving 2 partitions, that means my file will be divided into 2 different partitions. Okay, part 1 and then part 2. So when you make use of this file which is having 20 rows, and if you make use of this round robin partitioning and the number of partitions are 2, what will happen? My partition, the file will be divided into 2 parts, which will be my P1 and P2, and then in the first one I'll be having something like 1. After that I have 2. That means first record will move to your first part, second record will move to your second part. Similarly third one will move here, fourth will move here, sixth, seventh, eighth, like that. Okay, so how many ever rows you might have, if you give some appropriate, if you just give whatever number of partitions you specify here, right? So based on that your file will be splitted into those particular partitions. If you are using this round robin wala fashion, round robin is nothing but first record will move to the first one, second record will move to the second part, similarly so on and so forth, like that. Okay, so this is one of the simplest methodology which we can use it, and we can split the file. All right, so that is your round robin methodology. So if you see here, the first record will move to the first part, second record will move to the second part. Again third record will here, okay, maybe they have taken partitions as 3 here, so that is why we are able to see 1 2 3 partitions here. So here if they consider it as 3, right? So first part will go to the first file, second record will go to the second part, third record will go to the third part. Again since we only have 3 parts, right? So again after the third record we have the another record, fourth record, which will go to the first part, so on and so forth, like that. Okay, so this is your round robin wala fashion. If you consider this hashing, so hashing, right? So hashing will be calculated based on some columns. So hashing means what? So there will be few, suppose if you have 2 different columns, like column 1 plus column 2. So based on this particular columns, you want to calculate some hash value. Okay, so if you want to combine these 2 particular values, so you can just make use of any columns, whichever columns you want, right? So based on that particular columns, right, these columns will be appended. So these on these particular columns some hash value will be generated, which would be a random value. So based on that particular random value, right, you will be having the records, right? So based on that particular record, suppose if you see here, my hash hashing, using this hashing value, I'm getting, suppose 3 partitionings I'm getting. Okay, it will actually make use of some there will be some feature inside this particular hashing. So making use of that particular feature, what will be happening, this whatever records we are having, right, so randomly it will consider it and it will move to the appropriate partitions. So using this hash partition, right, I'm getting some 3 partitions. So using that, my first record is moving to the second partition, second record is moving to the first partition, third record is moving to the third partition, something randomly like that it will be taking and it will be moving the data. It's just that in whichever partition you choose, right, whatever partition type you are choosing, be it round robin, hashing, or whatever fashion you are choosing, right, so basically based on that actually the parts will be divided. And here, right, straightforwardly first one, second one, third one will be moved. Here, right, randomly it will be moved. Okay, so all the values will obviously move to the appropriate location in the final case. Obviously we want all the values to be moved from our source system to our target system, that is our target, right. So basically all the values will be moved, but in which order they have to move? Is it in the first row in the first part, second row in the second part, third row in the third part, in that fashion, or else do you want to move it randomly or whatever order, right? So based on that we have these partitions, and making use of those partitions, right, we will be able to move the records appropriately to different kinds of parts. Okay, all right. So mostly we will be making use of this hashing and round robin only. ठीक है ना? So whatever fashion you choose, whatever partition type you choose, category you choose, ultimately what are we doing? We are trying to segregate the parts. If it is fine, if it is a small file, if it is a huge file, then only we need these kind of partitions, right? If it is a simple, straightforward, small file, you do not need this partition. So at that time, what you'll be doing, you can either use current wala option, use current partitioning wala option, or else you can use single partitioning wala option. If you feel like you might be getting some huge workload and if you want to make use of any of this particular category present, right, you can just go ahead with that, and then you can just choose the appropriate partitioning numbers, like based on the workload, how many other partitions you want to create, right, so those many number of partitions you can just specify here. Okay, na? It's just that each and everything is having some of the methods, so based on that it will be calculating. Okay. Silence. Okay, na? All right, then I hope you have understood today's session. In tomorrow's session, I'll be discussing about